As Robert begins to exert his power over Tony, Nadia is pushed to use what power or rather influence she has left to set up Robert to possibly get killed. So for the first topic, we're going to talk about Russo and Garrett. And to keep things short, because not a lot happens with this topic, Russo didn't get her promotion to go down to Florida. Garrett's in his feelings because there's not enough evidence to put Robert down for murder. There's only evidence building to put him into some type of white-collar jail. So, with both of them kind of down in the dumps, things happen, they kiss, but luckily it doesn't go anywhere. However, within a day or so, because it's kind of hard to tell how much time passes within an episode, there's a partial print on a newly discovered gun, and with that print, it is discovered that Armand could possibly be the person who killed Maya, and with that, you already know that Garrett is pissed and he's ready to gun for Armand as soon as he can find him. For the second topic, we're going to go into Tony having to go to Manila in order to get drugs. And the reason why she has to go to Manila is because Bosco, thanks to Senkata, he gets shot up and killed. And technically, when you look at it, when Tony and Armand show up to make the exchange, they should have probably got killed too, but they're leads of the show, so despite how many bullets fly and how many people come after them, they somehow get away. But while they may get away from Senkata, they're not going to get away from Robert, who is pretty much ready to kill Armand just because of another failure happening. But thankfully, Tony remembers that she has associates in Manila in the form of Anna Mae, who's the person who replaced her when she resigned from her position as a surgeon, and also Gabriel, who's Anna Mae's husband. Now, she has to go in person in order to do all this, so the idea was in her head, it's going to be her, Armand, and I guess also Robert, flying on his private plane in order to get over there. And that's not what Robert wants to do, because slowly but surely he wants to cut Armand out of these deals, because clearly he's the weakest link when it comes to this. Tony is the one who comes up with the ideas. She's the one who is ready to get dirty for these things. So Armand's kind of the muscle. And at this point, what need does Robert have for more muscle when he already has enough in his own organization? Why hire a freelancer who not only has the woman he loves, but also is interfering with this woman who clearly has better ideas and know-how than him? That aside, Tony and Robert go over to Manila, and one of the reasons besides, keeping Armand's head on his shoulders, that they're going to do all this, is because Tony once again is running out of drugs for Luca. So there's some new drug over in Manila that hasn't necessarily got FDA approval or something like that. Can't remember offhand. And the idea is going over there so that Bob can get his drugs, Luke can get his drugs, and then everything be fine. Unfortunately, Anna Mae and Gabriel aren't necessarily for this plan. And while, of course, they're thankful for Tony, happy to see and everything, but being that you can be sentenced to death for this type of thing over Manila, they don't like having to be involved, much less having to deal with the corruption that they right now are not part of. But Anna Mae feeling bad for Tony leads to her at least giving her the contact information for the people who could help her. But with seeing Robert outside her house, she gets upset because now she feels more involved than she ever wanted to be. So with that said, it seems that Anna Mae and Gabriel are no longer friends of Tony's, and she's pretty much fine with it. At this point, wherever Luca is, that's her home. In Manila, the Philippines, is just some place she lived at for a long stint of time. So for the last topic, we gotta bring up how Robert's relationships are either evolving, devolving, or about to perhaps end. When it comes to Tony, she recognizes that Robert's not a good guy, but at the same time, he's kind of becoming like the new Armand for her. She recognizes that he's not a good person, that he's into a lot of illegal stuff that leads to people getting hurt. But for the sake of Luca, she tolerates it because that's a steady supply of drugs, a steady supply of help that she can get in order to keep him alive. As for Nadia, she too has a complicated relationship when it comes to Robert. She married him a long time ago because she felt like she owed him because he sponsored her in order to get into the US. She did try to divorce him, but he never filed the papers. And now, because they're still married, Armand's upset. Now, of course, Armand is at this point where it's like when he tried to cut him out of the Tony deal, he keeps trying to talk up his wife and try to get with her perhaps. Armand's like, I need to take this man out because he's causing too many problems. And he wants to get Nadia involved because if they're still married, that means Nadia inherits everything that Robert has. But the problem is that with Robert showing a more kinder side by helping Nadia keep La Habana, which Isabel's about to sell because, it's not making money for her anymore, it's like this man has done terrible things, but he has perhaps softened a bit, or at least toward Nadia he has. And with that, she doesn't want to just discard him like a deer on the side of the road. But, it's one of those things where it's like, do I keep the person who is very beneficial to my career? Or do I keep the person who makes me emotionally and mentally and probably physically fulfilled? That's what she seems to be at. And it's really hard to say whether or not she's going to be fully on board with what Robert wants, with what Armand wants in terms of killing Robert, or if maybe she may back out the last minute and not necessarily set up Armand to get killed, but at least keep Robert alive. So when it comes to this episode, there's not a highlight for us. There's a low point in the form of Russo and Garrett making out, and that's just because it felt completely unnecessary. Maybe not random because they've had their moments, especially Russo when it comes to Garrett, but it remains something that I don't feel like needs to happen, especially considering when it comes to Garrett, I feel like any type of relationship he gets in with people, whether it's the partners that have all disappeared or else, his ex-wife and his kid, those storylines don't go anywhere and they get dropped in an instant. So either give Russo a real storyline that's outside of Garrett or just keep it to where she's his boss who tries to pull the reins, but he keeps running off. Let's not make it romantic because that just feels lazy. So when it comes to on-the-fence topics, the first one is Robert's pending demise. For me, I'm still kind of having that issue when it comes to the Clean Lady of feeling like it's not often thinking long-term, it's just presenting stuff short-term. And in terms of Robert, I fear that like with how Hayek died and nothing really happened afterwards, that can probably happen with Robert too. That instead of there being some kind of power vacuum, like real issues because of him dying, all that's gonna happen is somebody new pops up in his place. They provide Tony a new way to get drugs for Luca, some more storyline for Armand and perhaps Nadia too to deal with. And it's just gonna be like every villain's just like an interchangeable part where they don't really matter in the long run, they're just there until somebody new can come along. But who knows? Maybe Robert would actually get saved and continue to be built up. If not, considering how Tony thinks he's trustable enough when it comes to getting the drugs she needs, maybe she may try to complicate things for Armand so that he can't take out Robert. Never mind even make things difficult for Nadia to participate. So the second on-the-fence topic is Garrett going after Armand, and the main reason why that's an on-the-fence topic is because we saw this before, and I feel like this is pretty much like an endgame type of storyline of, Garrett stop going after people who he thinks is over Armand in order to get to them, and instead just focusing on Armand. So I don't know. It's just not that appealing or interesting at this point. The next on-the-fence topic is Armand playing a reverse Uno on Nadia, and I'm just saying this because considering how Nadia was about, what may or may not be happening between Armand and Tony, and him just having one good day with her, and that leading to him able to guilt her for being married to Robert a long time ago, it felt like something seemed off. Like, why is this power switch happening so easily now? And why is she not begging, but seems so guilty of something that, her circumstances is what caused it. It's not like she, from the way that she makes it seem, willingly married him because she was in love. She felt like she owed him, and as we've seen, Robert is someone who likes to collect on his debts whenever possible, so kind of stripping away Nadia from this femme fatale thing. I recognize it's not terrible to show her softer side, but I feel like the way they do it with this show is never her being voluntarily soft or getting to be loving and all that. It's always a way of kind of playing a defense, and I don't know how I feel about that. The next on the fence topic is just Sin Cara letting Tony and Armand get away, and my issue with that is I feel like with all the stuff that Hahn has done and failed to do so far, shouldn't there be more gains or repercussions involved with what he's been into? Shouldn't there be more people coming after him, even if just in the form of what he used to do with Hayek, and now without this defense, them going after him since he doesn't have any type of power anymore? So now, for them to build up Sin Cara for damn near this whole season as something they need to worry about, never mind Bosco needs to worry about, and then Bosco gets killed and they get away, it just... I get to a certain degree, they have to build up these villains but make it so that they never seem so formidable that Armand and Tony can't handle them. But at the same time, with how low these villains are treated, it kind of makes it so if this big time gang that's throughout Mexico can't handle 2 people, never mind someone like Tony and Armand who are going against, 6 or so people, almost all of them with guns, much less machine guns, and yet somehow Tony and Armand are able to get away just because a train or truck passes? Are you telling me they're really going to give up on somebody who undermined them for this long? Just like that? Come on now. And the last on the fence topic for us is going to be the trip to Manila. The reason why the trip to Manila is on the fence for us is that more than likely, Tony's not ever going to go back, and we don't get a huge amount, if any, flashbacks when it comes to this show. So this felt like the one opportunity where we could have saw what Tony's life was before she left to the Americas. We could have seen how things were between her and Marco before, beyond, the arguments and all that. And even see her really in her element before Anime was given her job. Yet, that didn't happen, and for what it seems, the future is all about looking forward, not backwards, and I don't know, it just feels like we should add this trip to Manila as part of the list of all the missed opportunities that this show could have taken, and the longer we watch this show, the longer the list gets, and it's just, I don't know, it's not a major disappointment. It's not going to completely ruin the show that they haven't dived more into Tony's past, but it's just one of those things that kind of, hence the topic, that it's on the fence, but you kind of feel iffy about, but it tips you over to the more so being a low point than them being in a highlight for them saving time and not wasting their episode potentially by going too much in the past and not moving things toward the future. Especially considering this should be the penultimate episode of the season. Overall, The Cleaning Lady is approaching the end of its 2nd season, and it's not necessarily building up to much in the way of hype. It feels like it's the same thing, different episode, and while there's still some form of entertainment value there is a need to question and feel like, has this show already peaked and this sort of sophomore slump is a sign of what's to come? Or is this just a learning process and maybe season 3 can bounce back better than ever?